So new podium.
Tyler, what challenge does Detroit present this week that maybe you haven't faced or seen in the first 3 weeks?
I mean, I think it's the same every single year. I mean, you're going against a very tough physical defense. They like to be able to hit. They like to make contact. The DBs I think are really good. They understand the defensive scheme. I mean, we've gone against them almost every single year, so we already know the fans are going to be super loud. It's going to be super intense, especially with it being Monday night. And so I think we just got to be able to stay poised, understand that there's going to be ups and downs throughout the game, but just being able to try to manage our emotions and just go out there and just try to play at a high level.
You like that? I mean, Gino talked about it earlier, but do you like that challenge of a real loud, kind of hostile place when you guys are trying to go against that?
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why you enjoy playing this game. I mean, whenever we were in college, I mean, everywhere you went, it was always a crazy type of atmospheric game. And so for us, I mean, I think Detroit is one of those places where they've begun to make a name for themselves within the last couple of years, and I think Dan Campbell has done a great job with that and the identity that they're looking to have as a team, and the fans are behind them, and you could tell like they're really good at what they do with being able to have the noise super loud to where you could barely hear what's going on. And so we got to be great not only with the cadence but also like the signals and stuff like that to just being able to make sure we're all on the same page.
What's the loudest road stadium you've played in, college or pro?
In college, I mean, that means I got to look back at all the games that we played, but I think at one point it was Oklahoma State, especially when they were really, really good. And when we were number one in the country, Baylor was rocking. That's the game that we lost. We should have played Notre Dame and won in the championship, but we ended up losing to Baylor, and then we played Oregon. But, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think those two. One of the sleepers that actually was a crazy stadium was Iowa State. And when I was there, you didn't want to go play at Iowa State because it was like those were the games where it could almost end up a trap game.
What do you think it is about Gino that he's had some really good games on the road and in Detroit in particular? What about him do you think allows him to thrive in that setting?
I think like sometimes when you play away, sometimes it feels so much better because when you're growing up and you feel like everybody's against you, just in general, like when you're trying to achieve your dreams and they say not too many people make it to the NFL because it's only this type of percentage. It's like you feel like it's everybody against me, and sometimes that's whenever people rise up and play at their highest level and they're able to play to this ability that a lot of people haven't been able to see before. And you kind of get that same approach just when you go to an away game in general. There's really nobody there that's for you except the people that's around you. And growing up, you might only have some friends and some family that believe in your dream. And when you get on the road, you only have a team and you have some fans who's able to go there, that are Seattle fans that support you, but everybody else is there for the opposing team. And so I think sometimes you just get that feeling of, all right, I'm more focused, than sometimes it is for a home game. You're more aware, because you understand what's at stake and what could be a possibility of happening because it's going to be noise, it's going to be loud. So it just, the preparation is a little bit different.
Tyler, Detroit has got called for a lot of pass interference penalties. You've had shown a lot of savvy through your career in drawing those. Is that something you always were able to do, or did you develop it? And is it something you've shared any tips with other players on your team about how to best do that?
Nah, I just play football, man. Like, you can't, about to get me in trouble. I play football, and I try to make every single play, and I can't control whether a ref call a flag or not. Like, I try to make the play as if I can, and sometimes, it's obvious to a ref if somebody's grabbing you or holding you. Sometimes it's not. When the refs are in here, we ask them questions like, hey, like, do y'all watch film over players? Are y'all able to see what's going on? Like, stuff like that. So they watch film just like we do, just like you guys do. And so there's things that the NFL might say, this is what the focus is going to be on this week. And so, again, like, I can't control it. There might have been times I felt like things were a flag and it wasn't called. But, sometimes when I'm training and whenever I'm going through my approaches, I'm like, hey, man, like, you got to learn how, like in basketball, you got to get an and one. You can't just always rely on certain things to take place. You got to still make that catch. So for me, I'm trying to make every single catch that I possibly can. And if I can't, sometimes it may be a flag and sometimes it's not. But even if it is, I'm still telling myself, like, hey, man, you got to catch that.
Tyler, we were talking about Geno's ability to lead through positivity and encouragement. Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy just for, any player, but also understanding, like, as this generation starts to change, is the coaching mechanisms and the way that players talk to themselves or to each other are different. With the new generation, it's more of being able to have player coaches. It's more being able to meet them where they're at, kind of like talk to them, build them up in a sense to where they feel good about themselves. Like, rather than in the old times, it's like, you might hear a lot of different things to where you have to tell people like, hey man, like take the message, not the tone, right? And you got to be able to help them understand, like, all right, like, not gonna say all that, but you just learn over time, like, all right, like the coach wants the best for me, and you tell him like, hey, when he stops trying to help you, that's when he doesn't care. And now you're kind of like seeing a lot of that fizzle out. And a lot of people are just kind of like talking in a way to where they're like, hey, man, it's good. You're going to make the next one. Like, if you need to focus on catching after practice, focus on catching jugs, whatever you need, we right here for you. It's a lot different than in the past. So I do think it helps with this new generation coming up.
How's Geno Smith's positivity and messaging show up during games, between series, huddles?
Well, I mean, I think it shows up because sometimes you can still get your point across and still be positive, right? Like, you don't have to say, hey, man, like, we suck out here. What's going on? Like, you can bring everybody together and still talk to everybody in a way that we understand that we need to focus on our assignment, because if everybody does their assignment, everybody can be able to collectively get what it is that we're trying to get across. So, I mean, I think he does a great job when he brings us together or when he's talking to us before we end up going out there to the game. I think he does a great job knowing when to talk and when not to talk, because sometimes, you don't want to overly talk to where people are like, oh, we heard this before. But I think he's been doing a tremendous job and just being a leader of this team.
What's he say or do that resonates, that seems to work?
I mean, I think it's hard to say what works and what doesn't, but I think just no matter what it is that he says, he always makes sure that he's the one that takes the approach to go make things happen. So, if he's trying to get everybody on board, if you see he's going out there and he's willing to go to war by himself, I mean, it makes you as a teammate want to be able to make sure that you're right there down the line to be at war with them.
Tyler, what would you say about the efficiency of this offense? I mean, you get 17 in the first quarter, 0-0 second and third, you're 3 for 11 on third down, yet you get 11-play 98 drive that kind of cinched the game. What would you say about that?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just resilience. Obviously, we understand that we've been hurting ourselves just with the penalties. The penalty aspect has been putting us behind the sticks, which makes the game of football a lot more harder for anybody that's an offense. But, I think the biggest thing is when you look at the positives, it's helped us learn how to be able to get back and try to get those first downs when you're first and 20 and then second and whatever and then third and whatever. We're able to have those type of practices, because a lot of times when you're great at all that stuff and you never have to deal with first and 20 or second and 20, nobody knows how to deal with it, right? So at least we got the experience of knowing how to deal with a lot of that stuff, but we don't want to put ourselves behind the markers like that. So I think for us, we've been learning just going back to the fundamentals, making sure that we know how to block, like especially with us as receivers, blocking around the perimeter, making sure that we're able to just focus more on the intangibles and not just being able to be lazy to where we start making mistakes.
What is it about this offense? We've seen there's so many different dynamics here. What is it about the offense that maybe it's Coach Grubb's screen or whatever that makes it so difficult for other defenses to try and defend?
I think it's just a super sophisticated offense to where, in practice, you got to learn so many things, and it's always feeling like you're back at school because there's so many different things that, you get put into the game plan or things might be added at the end. But the more and more that you study, the better it makes you guys on the field, and then the harder it makes teams to be able to guard you whenever you're out there playing, because there's a lot of different things that we can be able to do and a lot of variety and things that we can exploit to where, right now I feel like, we're still getting to the point of where we really want to be as an offense. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to make things scary for a defense. And I think we have to be able to be in sync with everything that it is that Grubb is trying to get across to us, making sure that we're in sync when it comes to the signals and the levels of communication. But I think you can slowly see everything and how it's starting to build together. And just the efficiency, I think it's just making sure that, the pass catchers, we catch the ball. The quarterbacks, they throw the ball, and they trust that we're going to be at the right spot at the right time.
The Lions play a lot of press coverage. You've been one of the best receivers at getting off the press. What are the keys to being a good receiver against press coverage?
I just think it's know your opponent. I mean, just watch the games and see what they do, and then develop a plan. And whatever your plan is, go out there and don't run away from that plan. It's a reason why you created this game plan in the first place. I mean, we've been playing football our whole lives, so we know how people press. We know the different things that they do, the varieties, like certain techniques that they may change at the last minute. There's so many games and so many players to where you can watch and see what players are going to do or what they're really good at.
Anything else, guys? 3, 2.
No. Oh, yes, I do. So D linemen kind of talked about how they have to stop the run so they can have fun, so they can rush the passer. On offense, is there something similar for the receivers? Like, we got to block in the run game so that we can start getting the rock in the passing game?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something, because the more that you're able to block, the more that play actions open up, right? And the more that sometimes those deep shots open up to where you can be able to throw the ball behind the safeties and behind the cornerbacks. I think, for us, it's just being able to try to make sure that we don't start doing things to where it's easier tells for defenses to know exactly what we're doing. So the better that we are able to block, like the better I'm able to block, the more that we can be able to use that as an advantage to be able to take the offense to another level.